How you doing? It's Mike from Lumen Lights, and I'm going to show you how to swap out and replace a control board on the Slick Par Q710. If the display is showing all dashes, usually that means that one of the chips on the control board has gone bad. If it was a power supply that went bad, there would be no power, there would be no LCD display at all. So being the fact that you may be seeing dashes or a whole bunch of 8s and the light's just not working, but the LCD is lit up, does mean that the power supply is outputting power. So to take the light apart, I've kind of done a little bit already to get things started. There are 8 screws on the corners of the light on the top faceplate where the lenses are. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you're going to take those 8 screws off the top, pay attention to which ones they are, put them someplace aside safe, and then you're going to lift up the lens cover. And then when you lift up the lens cover, there's the actual lenses for the LEDs in there on a plate. And there are 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the corners to remove this lens plate. It's on posts. There are long metal posts inside. And the lens plates have these big screws here. They're actually the same screws like the ones in the cover, but they've got a flat head. They're a little bit wider. So put those in a safe place, someplace to the side, and then you're going to lift off your faceplate. Now, let me turn this up so you can see. When you lift this up, you look inside here, and you'll see that there's only a few basic components. There is the LED board, of course. There's right up against the sidewall here. This is the control board. This is what we're going to be swapping out. And down at the bottom, this other component down here, this is our power supply. Okay? This is our DMX socket, where we plug our DMX cables into, and then it has a little cable that connects onto the control board. We have a fan on the side here, which keeps the LEDs cool. And these are the 4 posts that the LED board connects onto. So first thing we need to do is, if you look at the light from the side, this plate, the bottom of the light, the control board, is secured onto this plate. So we need to slide this plate out a little bit so that we can get to the LED socket, or the socket, the wires they terminate into a socket, and that socket plugs into the board all the way at the back, if you could see that in there, all the way at the back. So we're going to pull that gently forward, just enough that we can get to that socket with our fingers, and we're going to pop it out, and we're going to pull that cable out. So you'll see right here, here's the socket, the white socket that the LEDs go to. The socket goes to the LED board itself. So there we go. You can see now you've got your LED board, and that's out. We'll put that to the side. Now if we look at our control board, we still got a couple of other connectors on there. We've got a fan, and that's this red wire right here, and this connects to the fan right in there. So we're going to pull that out. So that's off the control board, and I'm just going to turn on some more lights here. That should be a little better. Yes, that looks much better. Okay, so we just took our fan off, and our fan was located right here. If you look at the fan and you're not sure when you're putting it back together, there's a label on the fan. This fan says 24 volts DC. And if you look on the board itself, on the control board, here's the one that I'm going to pop back in, I'll show you. There's 12 volt and 24 volt. If you look right in there, there's little numbers. The 12 volt is the one to the right, the 24 volt are these two right here. So I just stick it in the middle. So the fan is out. The next thing we're going to pull out here is this cable off to the side, right there. And this is located right next to the fan. And this cable goes to, if we follow this out, this goes to a microphone. So actually the microphone's not attached, so I can leave this out. I don't have to actually take it off the board. Then our next cable we have here is our DMX socket, where the DMX cables plug in on the outside of the light. And this wire goes to the board down there. So we're going to take off the white connector that goes on the control board from the DMX socket. The last connector we have that we need to disconnect is this cable right here. And this is going to our LCD display, which just flew off here. And that's the LCD display board. We'll just put that back here where it goes. Slide that in. Okay, so we take out the plug for the LCD. Now that's out. Now the only thing holding this in is this black and red wire, and these are the power cables. This is very important, this step, that you make a note of where the black one goes and where the red one goes, because this is sending DC current to this control board. If you reverse the wires and you put the red where the black should be and the black where the red should be, you will fry and burn out this board, and it's basically garbage. Now if you also look on the board, this is the board we can replace it with right here. It's identical to the other board. When you get your light apart and you get your boards, orient the board so that it's in the same direction as the one you're taking out. That way everything fits. And if we look at the power connector on the board, which is the green block, this green block right here, and if you look carefully inside between this black capacitor and the green power block, look right down inside there on the surface of the board. It's printed. One side has a positive, a plus, which is this side right here, and the other side has a negative. So if we orient this the way it's in the light, where my finger is right here, this first screw would be the negative, which is the black wire, and the second screw would be the positive, which is the red wire. And indeed, if we look at our light that has the power supply, power cables already in, the first one is the negative, the black cable. The second one is the red one. So get yourself a fine screwdriver, small tip, about that big, that can fit in there. And you're going to loosen this up, the black wire first, and then the red wire. And then you're going to take these wires out. And now once those wires out, this whole panel can slide out. And there's your control board. Now I'm not going to take this control board off and mount the other one. I'm just going to show you for example's sake. So you would remove 1, 2, 3, 4 screws, and then this control board would come off of the metal plate, the housing plate. Put your new board on. Put the 4 screws back in so that this is secured. The one white plug in the middle by itself, that's for the microphone, and we've already got our microphone plugged on there. Now we need to put our power cables back on. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide the housing piece with the control board on it into the little slots on the housing, just like that, and slide that back in. And then carefully with your fingers, or if you've got needle nose pliers, they work even better. And I'll show you that here. Got a pair of needle nose pliers. I'm going to put my red wire in first since it's the first one. Get the black one out of the way. Red goes to the positive. Get my screwdriver. Oh, and remember to loosen the screws on the terminal block before you install this, because usually they're in the closed position. So I'm going to close this down. Tighten that up. There we go. That's nice and tight. And now we'll do the same thing with our black wire. Going to put the black wire in. Now I have to slide the control board back a little bit so that the black wire can reach. And I'm going to screw that in. Make sure it's under the screw. Alright, now my black wire and red wire are in place. I have power going to this board when I plug it in. Now I'm going to take my fan. I'm going to plug my fan back in. Let's get the microphone out of the way here. Let's throw that in the back. Fan, remember it's 24 volts, so I'm putting on a 24 volt plug, which is the middle one, and the next one immediately to the left. So I'm just going to put it in the middle. If you put it in the 12 volt, you'll burn it out if it's the wrong voltage. So there we go, we got our fan. Next we'll do our LCD display, and this has a big wide plug, and if you look in here at the board, see if I can see this myself on the camera. Right here. Here's the white plugs. There's only one plug this size, and you got to look at the orientation of the plug. There are little notches on one side of the plug and it's flat on the other, and on the socket there are little notches or slits where the notches here, or I should say the little raised pieces, go in. So we're going to slide that in there and push that in place, and now that's hooked up. Next thing, we have our DMX, which is 3-pin, and we have 2 3-pin connectors on the board. So how do we know which one to put it in? Maybe you forgot. Again, you can look at the board you just took out, and if you read on the board itself, you'll see that the end terminal, the end socket here, right to the right of it, it says DMX written right on the board. The other one in the middle of it says IRF, which is for a remote control if you had a remote control version of the light, but we're just doing DMX, which is the last socket. So we take our plug it into the DMX socket. Now our DMX is connected. Now the last thing we need to connect is our LED board. So we're going to get our LED board again that we took out before and get our plug ready. And again, look for those notches on the socket so we know which way it goes. And I'm going to carefully reach in there and plug this in. I'm going to have to pull it out just a little bit to get in there. Okay, got it. Slide the control board back all the way. You might have to do a little clearance on the wires and the plugs, get it to seat firmly. Take your LED board, you're going to lay it flat so that the corners where the holes are for the screws rest on the mounting posts. And you may have to put the LED board, the metal housing part, underneath the wires here of the LCD display, just so that they go in and they fit. Okay. And now we're going to get our screwdriver and our pan head screws, the ones that have a little of a wider diameter on the screw head, and we're going to screw in our posts. And this is taking a lot longer than it should, but because I'm stopping to explain each and every piece and component and wire and cable. There's our second screw. Put that in. Our third screw. And you may have to use your fingers to move the post a little bit so that the holes line up. Our fourth screw. Again, have to just move this a little bit so that it lines up. And now our LED board is securely in place back inside the light housing. And now we're going to put our lens cover back on. And the lens cover can only go one way, even though it looks exactly the same. It's not. One way the holes line up. If you put it the other way, two of the holes will line up, but the other two won't. So you'll know if they don't line up that you have it oriented the wrong way. And then we're just going to put in our 8 screws on the top of the housing. Get the first one started, which will help you with your alignment. And go all around the light. And basically that's it to replace the control board. It should take you, once you do the first one, may take a little longer because you're going to be studying and looking at everything, but this really should be maybe about 5 or 10 minutes per light. And you should be up and running after that, because as I said, usually dashes on the LCD display board indicates something bad on the ROM, or the read-only memory chip on board the light. So replacing the control panel that contains the ROMs should clear that up. Hope this was helpful. If you need any more assistance, feel free to give me a call.